In this video, we are going to review what has been learned from Unit 4, Lessons 1 through 4. To complete this review, you will need your iControl student workbook and something to write with. If you do not have what you need at this time, please pause the video and press play when you're ready to continue. If you do not need to view all of the lessons in this video, feel free to skip to the lessons you need to view using the start times provided. As you begin the final unit of iControl, you will look at different types of problems, learn steps to solve them, and have lots of chances to practice using these skills. Everyone encounters problems. They can be big, small, easy to fix, or difficult to solve. There are some situations where one person may have a problem, but another person in the same situation may not. Let's look at a couple of examples. This person is being yelled at. Most people would think this is a problem, but depending on the person and the situation, this could be an easy or difficult problem to solve. Spilling a drink at lunch might not be as difficult of a problem and should be pretty quick and easy to solve. Let's look at how to become expert problem solvers. Even though we encounter problems all the time that need to be solved, it doesn't mean we're automatically using the best strategies. Problem solving is a skill that takes practice. Here are 2 problem-solving essentials. Think positively and use problem-solving steps. First, when you think positively, you approach problems positively. You believe that a problem can be solved and that solving it can help you reach your goals. You know it might take time and effort to solve it, but you stay committed. It is also important to be confident in your ability to solve the problem and believe in yourself. The second problem-solving essential is to use problem-solving steps. For example, when we learn to solve math problems, we follow all the steps to get the right answer. The same is true for any problem you're solving. In the next few lessons, you'll learn the steps of problem solving using the acronym CNTRL, which is Control minus the O, where every letter stands for a problem-solving step. Using handout 1.1 in your student workbook, we will look at just the first 3 situations to determine if the people did or did not use the 2 problem-solving essentials of think positively and use problem-solving steps. I'll read the first 3 scenarios. Circle yes if you believe they used the problem-solving essentials, and no if you think they did not. Nate gets bumped in the hallway. He is confident he can solve the problem and thinks about all the things he needs to do to solve it. Kat's friend is yelling at her for missing the goal and losing the game. Kat does the first thing she can think of. She punches her friend. Mason spills his drink at lunch. There are no napkins around to clean it up, and he's late for class. He gets frustrated that this problem can't be solved quickly and starts yelling. He stomps off to class and leaves the spill. Let's review the answers. In question 1, Nate did take the time to use his problem-solving steps. In number 2, if Kat thought through the situation, she probably wouldn't have punched her friend. Finally, in number 3, Mason would not have yelled and left the spill if he used the problem-solving essentials. Let's turn to the content questions for Unit 4, Lesson 1 in your iControl student workbook to check your understanding of this lesson. Pause the video while you answer the questions. When you're done, press play. For question 1, if you selected D, you're correct. The 2 problem-solving essentials are think positively and use problem-solving steps. For question 2, if you selected A, you're correct. Thinking positively means to be confident and believe a problem can be solved. In Lesson 2, we'll start looking at the first of the 5 steps in CNTRL, which is C, check for a problem. Let's practice checking for a problem. We'll look at some slides where you'll have to decide if there is a problem. For each picture you see, decide if there is or isn't a problem. I'll give you a few moments to come up with your answer before going over it. All of these kids seem to be enjoying playing basketball. There does not seem to be a problem here. Based on their body language, it's safe to say they are arguing. There is definitely a problem here. The problem in this picture may be less obvious. The player does not seem happy with the ruling of the referee, but the referee does not seem to be bothered by the player's concern. The player is the only one with a problem. There are lots of different ways we might know a problem exists. We can figure out if there's a problem through our emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. Remember that emotions are connected to physical feelings that can let us know that a problem exists. The more intense the emotions or feelings, the greater the clue. For example, if you've been bumped in the hallway multiple times, your anger might build each time. If you don't recognize that you are becoming more and more agitated, you might react without thinking and get into trouble. Our thoughts can also give us a clue there's a problem. For example, Maria is worried about how she looks. All she seems to think about is how to eat less. This could be a clue there's a problem. If Maria doesn't recognize there's a problem, she could end up having some serious health issues. Our behavior, or how others react to us, can also help us realize we need to check for a problem. For example, Dave was trying to joke with his friend, but he made a face at Dave and stomped off without saying anything. Dave's friend's behavior was a definite clue that Dave needs to check for a problem. If Dave doesn't recognize he has a problem, he may lose a friend. Now locate handout 2.1 in your student workbook. Pause the video while you read each scenario, identify the clues, and decide if there is or is not a problem. When you're done, press play. Let's turn to the content questions for Unit 4, Lesson 2 in your iControl student workbook to check your understanding of this lesson. Pause the video while you answer the questions. When you're done, press play. For question 1, if you selected D, you're correct. To recognize a problem, we can use clues from our emotions, our thoughts, and our behavior. For question 2, if you selected A, you're correct. To solve problems and reach our goals, it's important to recognize there is a problem. In Lesson 3, you'll learn what comes after check for a problem, which is N, name the problem and the goal. Let's look at a scenario with two different outcomes. Shakira just got a new purse from her mom and lets her friend Donna see it when she asks. Unfortunately, Donna drops it in the mud. Shakira gets so mad that she pushes Donna down on the ground and is suspended for fighting. In the second outcome, Shakira uses the C and N steps of CNTRL. When the purse falls in the mud, Shakira checks for a problem, which is clear to her because she is getting mad. Then, she thinks about how to N, name the problem and the goal. At first, Shakira thinks Donna did it on purpose, but uses the focus strategy to calm down by focusing on her breathing and how her body feels. She realizes it was an accident, and the real problem is that her new purse is dirty. Her goal is to keep the purse looking new. Now that she N, named the problem and the goal, she can decide how to solve it more positively. There are two questions you need to ask when you N, name the problem and the goal. First, what is your goal? Second, what barrier is getting in the way of reaching that goal? Just like what you learned in Unit 2. Let's look at Silas's situation. Silas is studying for a test at home, and his little sister won't stop bothering him. Nobody is home to help Silas. His problem is that his little sister is bothering him, and his goal is to study for his test. What do you do if you have difficulty naming the problem? You may have to use reality checking to be realistic about what goals you can achieve. You also have to look at the situation in a positive way. Let's look at Silas's situation again. Silas knows his goal is to study for his test, but he thinks that his sister is a stupid jerk. However, Silas knows this barrier can't be moved. He can't make his sister stop, but he can, N, name the problem in a more realistic way so it can be solved. Silas realizes he's letting his little sister distract him, which is creating a barrier to reaching his goal. If he chooses to react differently to his sister, he can achieve his goal of studying. Locate handout 3.1 in your student workbook to practice step 2, name the problem and the goal. Pause the video to read the scenarios and answer the questions. When you're done, press play. Let's turn to the content questions for Unit 4, Lesson 3 in your iControl student workbook to check your understanding of this lesson. Pause the video while you answer the questions. When you're done, press play. For question 1, if you selected D, you're correct. Step 2 is N, name the problem and the goal. For question 2, if you selected B, you're correct. The N in name the problem means to describe the problem in detail. In Lesson 4, you'll review what you have learned so far about problem solving. You saw there are many types of problems that can be big or small, and simple or complex. No matter the problem, it is important to think positively and use problem-solving steps to solve it. The first step to CNTRL is to check for a problem. Your emotions, thoughts, and behaviors are 3 different ways you might know a problem exists. Sometimes we might check for a problem and find there isn't one. But if we do find a problem, we need to continue with the CNTRL steps. The second step is N, name the problem and the goal. You imagine what it'll look like to achieve your goal and use reality checking to stay positive and realistic. This helps you identify the goal and any barriers that may be in the way of reaching it. By doing this, you're on the path to solving the problem and achieving the goal. Locate handout 4.1 and 4.2 in your student workbook to practice C, checking for a problem, and N, naming the problem and the goal. Pause the video to read the first scenario on handout 4.1 and answer the questions on handout 4.2. When you're done, press play. Let's turn to the content questions for Unit 4, Lesson 4 in your iControl student workbook to check your understanding of this lesson. Pause the video while you answer the questions. When you're done, press play. For question 1, if you selected A, you're correct. A clue that helped Antonio identify there was a problem was that he was very angry. For question 2, if you selected D, you're correct. The goal is for his parents to be at the performance, and the problem is that his parents can't be at both. Thank you for taking time to catch up with iControl today. In the following lessons, you'll learn more about the steps to the CNTRL strategy.